You got a lot of bad people out there, right? Hate to tell you that. That's the reason why we built a platform that has done fairly well. Some of the risk associated with it, time, your time, and that's the reason why you're here right now is to see how you can use AI to expedite what you're trying to do quickly. Your time is the most valuable resource in the world. You can generate more money, you can hire more people, but at the end of the day, if you don't have enough time to do so, it doesn't mean anything, right? So what we've done here is we've seen a 67%, right? 67% of businesses or entities struggle in time management, resource management, and being able to actually utilize the black box output. Has anybody ever heard of what black box outputs are? You put all your information in this box, a black box. You never hear anything back from it, right? Has anybody ever applied for something and never heard back, or heard back like months later after you've actually found a solution for it? Never happened to you? Happens to me all the time. You go, you fill out this form. They say, hey, look, I'm going to call you back. You're going to get a response in 24 hours, 48 hours, right? Never happens. And then 6 months later, hey, are you guys still looking for that thing? Because we found it now. That's kind of the black box response mechanism, right? So what we've done is we've created, taken a 25-step process of you going into a funnel, never hearing back on that, truncating that down to 5 to 6 steps now, and actually getting an answer before you even get off the platform. All right, so first audit ready AI platform that does capital markets. At the end of the day, you do not care about where your capital comes from, as long as it's not like tied to narco terrorism, right? So what we've done is we've created in the background these things called LSAs or lending services agreements with 31 of the top financial institutions, family offices, and private equity markets. What that means for you is you come in, fill out a very easy, or at least quasi easy financial request application. And then we take care of all that utilizing AI, automation, and blockchain on the back end and pair you with the best partner to get you the funding that you need in real time. That's what we do. So what does audit ready specifically mean? We built our platform utilizing AES 256-bit encryption. Every one of our partners that we integrate with on the financial services side are regulated. So we're audit ready on the front end. So it's not like some black hole of you just submitting data and never hearing back. These are actually tier one institutions on the background or family offices that have lent out or provided equity in the billions of dollars. So we don't purport ourselves to be the best or JP Morgan Chase or anything close to that, but we partner with people who have dealt business in those areas for numbers of years. All right, so uncertainty is not fun, right? The cool thing about us is even if you download the app out of the Google Play Store or Apple Store, um, we provide you with transparency throughout the entire way, right? So you know that you submitted an application, you know when it's been reviewed, you know that someone's going to contact you, you're going to get a phone call, they schedule you, you have e-text alerts, WhatsApp messages, whatever you want. And at the end of the day, you actually can speak to a human, which is really cool, right? Which is like, hey, I'm having this trouble. I submitted my application, haven't heard back for whatever reason, and then it goes into our queue, and we actually have a human that'll call you within the day or so, depending on what's going on in your environment. Human authority presence. So we don't use AI to replace the human aspect of it. We use it to augment. AI just gets you to where you want to be, and then the human handover happens internal. Core platform benefits. Some of these are kind of cool. We give you an actual bottoms up display estimation of your project in real time. One of the things in Q4 that are coming out this year is that we're actually moving away from the, hey, I have a real estate project. I've got to order an appraisal. It takes 6 weeks to get the appraisal back. Cost me $35,000. The appraisal comes in. It's not what we need. We still need to get a loan, and it's actually shorter of what we actually need. So we're kind of moving that to the right a little bit. And actually, we're going to tell you in real time what your asset's worth. And by this time next year, hopefully, we'll have a pre 409 valuation. So if you have a business, you have revenue in that business, you're looking to see how much that business may be worth in order to get funding or maybe sell it. We actually have an AI agent that's going to be able to tell you that in real time. Right now, the MAI grade appraisal is the biggest thing that we're doing this year because it is a structured format. The 409 valuation with businesses is a little bit unstructured, so there's some intangible things we're dealing with internally to be able to do the valuation in real time, but we'll be able to have that with you in the next 12 months. And then why now? Well, if you need money, somebody came up to me earlier, said they need money, then in real time, we want to provide you with that opportunity, at least get you out there and make sure that we can satisfy you. All right. Any questions on that? I know that was a lot. I want to kind of run through the model. No questions? Nobody? All right. So what are some of the things? Oh, sir, yeah, absolutely. Yes. We do US and Canada currently. Yeah, we do we've got a couple Ontario firm, well, one guy in Toronto we just got funding for about $400,000 last 3 weeks ago. They were a home-based services business. They did plumbing, HVAC, and electrical. So we have expanded to Canada as well. Anyone else? Some of the facts about us. Currently, we have done 197 transactions, totaling $84 million. Been in business since 2021. Actually started becoming a direct small business lender the fall of 23. And we're building out our own stable deposit token. So what does that mean? What that means is that when you come in and you actually do an application within the next quarter and a half, 6 months, hopefully not too longer than that once we have regulatory authority, you'll be able to have that same day deposit within your crypto wallet. So you'll come in, apply, have funding the same day, perhaps in the same hour. That's really our goal. That's a very aggressive goal. But with the digital currency and digital ledger, we'll be able to actually lend you money on chain same day within the hour. Hopefully, that's where we're trying to go. We actually have two financial institution partners. One of them is a tier one institution. Hopefully, going to be striking that deal between now and the end of the month that'll allow us north of $1 billion of liquidity to actually put that in your hands same day. Without further ado, I'm Rob Stewart. I'm the president and CEO of CREquity.ai. I can be reached at rob@CREquity.ai, or I'll be around the conference if you have any questions about what we do specifically, or funding, or fintech. More than happy to share with you of how we can help you out. Thank you.
All right. What an exciting discussion. Thank you, Rob, for sharing those practical insights and perspectives with us. Now, let's turn our attention to a topic where innovation means impact in the most personal way: healthcare. Technology has given clinical tools to detect diseases faster, make smarter decisions, and deliver care that truly fits each patient's needs. But as the machine gets smarter, how do we ensure that human touch remains at the heart of care? How do we make AI a partner rather than a replacement in life changing decisions? In this section, the algorithm will see you now, Kevin Carlson, partner and AI practice lead at Tech CXO, will explain how AI is reshaping healthcare, revealing both its incredible potential and the challenges of keeping patient care human centered. Please join me in welcoming Kevin Carlson to the stage, and let's give him a round warm of applause.
Did you get the presentation? No, I gave it to somebody out there said they were going to have it in here an hour ago. I think her name was Shrinka. I'm not sure. Um, at one of the registration desks. She confirmed she got it. Let me see. Let's we find it. Okay. Oh, sorry. It's yep. Here it is right here.
All right, everybody.
She received it. Had it in here. So, that's them. Thanks. drop. Hold on. Which is it? What's your name? I see it. All right. I need a code. 157. Well, let's see. Where do I enter it? No, it's not letting me do it. Yeah, it's weird. It says it's not giving me a place to put the code in. Very strange. Go back there. There we go. Didn't get it. On. Okay, there it is. Got it that time. Appreciate it. Perfect. Thanks, man. All right, we're making progress. Almost there. How do I advance the slides? All right. All right. Can everybody hear me? I think we're finally going to get started here. Thanks for your patience. Takes a while. All right. Just want to tell you a little bit of story about guardrails here. In May of 2022, a 91-year-old man named Gene Lockard fell on his home. He broke his leg. He broke his ankle. He was admitted to the hospital and then to a rehab facility for physical therapy. His therapist described his condition as immobile and weak. Thing work? Hey guys, does this thing work? Good grief. Okay. All right. Can you manually advance them, please? All right, here we go. It's taken about 5 minutes to advance the slides. It's taken a long time to advance them. Can I just hold my hand up and you guys click it forward or something? Where are you pointing it? All right, try that. All right. So Gene broke his ankle and his leg. And less than 3 weeks later, his insurance company told him to go home. It's not his doctor, not his physical therapist, the insurance company. This is a real documented case, by the way. I'm just not using the names because I don't want it to detract from the real topic here, which is guardrails. The health insurance company had deployed an algorithm, an AI algorithm that was built by one of their subsidiaries. It compared Gene's condition to about 1,000 other similar patients and gave a prediction that Gene had had enough care, cut him off. The treatment facility disagreed, his physician disagreed, therapist disagreed, but the algorithm's output triggered a coverage denial. So he was forced to either move out or pay. So he ended up paying $14,000 a month. It's pretty steep. But they chose to keep him in care for a year. Gene died in July of 2023 at the treatment facility. But this isn't an isolated case. There was a 74-year-old stroke victim that was denied post-acute care repeatedly from the same algorithm. The doctors insisted that the patient needed treatment, but it wasn't provided by the insurance companies. Another family caught in the same loop. Every time they won an appeal, there was a new denial immediately. This became a class action lawsuit and reached federal court. And the judge himself said about the insurance company's appeals process, he called it futile. This is a number you should remember. 90% of the appeals that were made because of the decisions of this model were overturned. 90%, 9 out of 10. Who would deploy a model with a 10%, accuracy rate these days? Unfortunately, the company knew it, but they kept using the model. The other thing that was in their favor was that 0.2% of policyholders ever make an appeal. So the math worked in the favor of the insurance company, not in the favor of those that were insured. This isn't a story about AI gone wrong. I'm a huge fan of AI. I lead the AI practice at TechCXO, our partnership, and do a lot of great stuff with it. This is a story about what goes wrong when it's not deployed correctly, when there's no guardrails. So this is a signal, right? This is a signal that says something's got to change. AI is here to stay. We hear it all the time. We know these models are out there. We know they're in use. Yes, they're getting better, but they're not good enough. So let me show you what the right signal looks like. ECRI is an independent patient safety organization, and they named the misuse of AI chatbots as the #1 health technology hazard for 2026. Not number 5, not an honorable mention, the #1 risk. Their researchers documented chatbots that suggested incorrect diagnoses, recommended unnecessary testing, and in one case, invented body parts in response to medical questions. In another test, a chatbot told clinicians they could hook up an electrode to a patient's shoulder blade, which would have caused burns. 1.7 million is the number of unique AI responses that were generated from 1,000 different cases, like emergency room scenarios that were given to these models, and they were given the same symptoms, the same presentations. The only variable in these things was the patient's race, gender, income, or housing status. And that caused it to generate different outcomes. Too fast. The FDA has authorized over 1,200 AI-enabled medical devices. 97% of them came through the 501k pathway, 510k pathway rather, which only requires that a device be substantially equivalent to something else already on the market. Doesn't have to improve outcomes, doesn't have to be tested in clinical trials. 43% of those AI device recalls happen within the first year of authorization. We're deploying AI faster in healthcare than we are in building the systems that we need to govern it. So what do we do? I want to talk about 3 categories of guardrails. I'd like to talk about getting the slide to change first. All right, great. 3 categories of guardrails: data guardrails, and we want to go through model guardrails, and last, organizational guardrails. So the data guardrails, sorry, data guardrails really have to do with the data that's trained on. If you train a model on data, that's what the inference is going to be based on. If you don't train it on something, it's not going to be able to produce it. So it's really important to understand, does the data have any bias to it? So like that one example I just gave about the 1.7 million different responses, it did it because it was trained on that data. It's not malicious. It's just math. So you have to take a look at the data that you're presenting it. If you're giving it cases that are all from one socioeconomic group, that's what the output's going to do. If somebody doesn't fall in that group, it might do something different. There's a Nature of Medicine study, that Nature of Medicine study rather that I mentioned. It's a result of training on historical data that already contains decades of potential systemic bias that can cause these outputs to go astray. So input validation is what you do when it's where you check things before they reach the model. You want to make sure that your body parts that are mentioned, organs that are mentioned, are actually real organs and real body parts. You want to make sure that you build bias detection into the pipeline. So if an answer is coming out for 2 different cases, and the only thing that's wrong is some demographic information, that's a clear bias. You want to be able to catch that with guardrails. By the way, all this is possible today. There's lots of packages out there, in the Python world and other, other places where you can plug in these guardrails. They can call custom scripts. Claude has hooks now built into the product that allows you to do this. So these are not far-fetched things at all. Also, it's important to understand where the training data comes from. So where did it come from? Who did it pertain to? And then lastly, on the data guardrails is PHI and PII handling. Most of the companies I work with understand HIPAA, right? But a lot fewer have thought about what happens when the data that they feed into a model carries the biases of every single clinician, every insurer, and every system that ever generated it. So this is a very necessary step if you're using a model. You want to make sure you're checking the biases. If you're training additional layers on top of a commercial model or an open source model, you have to do the same thing. The next are model guardrails. I'm not going to wait on the slide. I'm going to keep going. So the lock-in case is a model guardrail failure. So AI generated an output. Nobody checked it. There was no human in the loop trigger that existed to catch this. So model guardrails answer a simple question. When should the system defer to a human? So where we are with AI right now, I think you definitely have to have a human in the loop. And I would even argue in a lot of cases that if you're using it to code, I code all the time still, and I use Claude Code and I check it, right? Just a quick aside, I had 3 clients a month ago, some of my security clients, and 3 of them had data breaches because of AI generated applications, because the people that were guiding the technology didn't know what to tell it to do to generate a secure application. So same thing here, right? You have to have people that understand what's going on, understand these cases and the diagnoses so that the proper decisions can be made. So obviously human in the loop is triggering somebody to manually look at it. Confidence thresholds, all these models have a way of giving you some sort of probability of this answer being correct. If it's too low, you probably shouldn't go with it. Hallucination detection, I mentioned that earlier about the body parts and organs. But here's, there's an encouraging thing about this study is that a simple built-in prompt could have caught a lot of these things. It's not expensive. It's not complex. It just has to exist. It's just a step you have to take. The last ones are organizational guardrails. This is where most healthcare organizations really have pretty low maturity. And there's a lot of real risk that lives here as well, especially on the compliance side. One of the things driving that is shadow AI. So there's people in healthcare organizations that are using their own AI, ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Gemini, whatever it might be, to do things like draft notes, summarize record, look at physicians' notes in an encounter record, and decide whether it's complete enough to go to through the claims process. In most cases, nobody's tracking who's using these things. People are just doing it. It's creating a lot of unnecessary risk for the organizations. And I'm not saying this in theory, right? I'm saying this as somebody who builds these things for organizations, both healthcare and other types of organizations. So there was one case where I walked into a situation where they deployed a bunch of AI tools and they were trying to get their arms around it. So I asked them about their AI governance policy. They didn't know what they had, didn't have one. I asked them who was validating the outputs. They had no idea. It meant nobody. I asked whether anybody was tracking which staff was using these tools. The answer was no. So we went in and built a governance program for them. So they included a governance committee, incident response plan, AI tool inventory, lots of other things. And none of this is anything revolutionary. This is just necessary. These things have been done in other compliance frameworks for years, in other businesses for years. And for some reason, this excitement around AI, this stuff is falling by the wayside, and it's going to create a lot of issues. So I do want to leave you with a prediction. This is not mine. It's from Dr. Aaron Neinstein, who's a chief medical officer at Notable Health. And he wrote in December 2025 that 2026 will bring healthcare's first major public outcry moment with AI, a highly visible failure. It's going to be an incident that triggers public fear and demands for a pullback. And I happen to think he's right. And I believe it's going to separate organizations into 2 categories. The first category is organizations that build the governance crisis ahead of time. It's the governance process before the crisis. They'll respond with some transparency around it. They'll put these programs in place. They'll slow their roll a little bit to have these things in place before they implement, you know, full end-to-end AI automation on things. Those are the ones that are going to weather the storm. The others that are doing this later, that where governance of AI is always something that happens after the fact, or they'll get to it later. They're going to struggle. They'll scramble. They're probably going to face lawsuits. So I think it's obvious which one of these companies you want to be. Wow. All right, I'm just going to keep going. That's the last slide. We'll preview. All right. So I'm going to go back to Gene for a while, for a minute. The guy that had to pay $14,000 a month. 9 out of 10 denials are wrong. The company kept using the tool anyway. That's what healthcare without guardrails looks like. And that's what the absence of governance looked like. So the important thing is, and you've already seen the slide, you know what to do. Build your guardrails now, make sure they're in place, and check them for accuracy. Appreciate your time and your patience struggling through this presentation. Happy to take a couple of questions if anybody has any. Yes. I haven't seen that, but great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So it has happened.
Yeah. Yeah. This is dangerous territory. Yes, I do. I'm not sure. Well, now that I'm through the presentation, I'll tell you the company was United Healthcare, and their subsidiary, I think it was InHealth, is who built the model. Um, I'm not sure about that, but all I know is that United Healthcare is the one who denied the claim. Yeah. Lots of documentation out there on it if you're interested. All right. Yes. Yeah, I can tell you in general, I can't tell you specifically on that model, but in general, they're getting it from their own, from the medical records that they already have access to. And they're building models based on, here were patient symptoms and conditions, and here was the outcome, and here's how much care was needed to get that outcome. So in that case, there was some, anomaly or something in the data for Gene where it said you've had enough care, time for you to go. Yeah, 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 right. Right. There's, I can't remember the term off the top of my head, but back in the mid 20 teens when I was building some machine learning models for e-commerce, I think they call them features. Like just, you want to be very picky about the fields that you use because they can influence the outcome. So you want to pick fields that have a high specificity to the output of the model. So I think eventually you're going to see models that aren't just healthcare models. You're going to see very specific models for specific conditions, and we probably need to move that in that direction to get the sort of the confidence score up on those things as well. Great. Well, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
What an eye-opening discussion on AI and healthcare. Thank you to Kevin Carlson for showing us how technology can truly enhance human impact. Now, let's shift gears and talk about something that affects every brand, every campaign, and every connection you make with your audience. Diversity isn't a box to tick or a fleeting trend, it is a real, meaningful opportunity to engage authentically. But how do you create messaging that resonates without feeling forced or, well, cringy worth? How can brands speak to varied audiences in ways that feel genuine, respectful, and relevant? In our next session, Diversity is Not a Trend: How to Market Without the Cringe Factor, our panelists will share their experiences, examples, and practical strategies to help brands communicate inclusively and effectively in today's multicultural world. Please join me in welcoming our panelists to the stage. We have Yvette Schmitter, CEO and co-founder of Fusion Collective. We have Catherine Tuominen, I apologize if I'm saying that incorrectly, founder of Catalyst Brand Strategy Pty Limited. And then we also have Todd Morris Fowler and Giovanni Gonzalez. Let's give them a huge round of applause and welcome them up to the stage. Welcome up. There's a mic here, and then there's a mic right over there.
Thank you. Alrighty.
We are going to do this fireside chat style. So, same topic, a little more cozy.
Yes. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay.
Oh, yeah,
That's settled.
they can hear you.
All right.
All right. So, because I am total planner, we had the panel planned out. Some of our panelists were not able to attend. So Dr. Fowler and I are going to have a conversation about the same topic, but it's going to be us two. I will be adding color commentary because I'm going to stay in my lane. I am Black in America. That's about it. Marketing is all him. So I will defer to the expertise, but add my color commentary as a citizen here. And we will like to open up to questions since it's just the two of us. Raise your hand, yell it out. Let's just have a great conversation for the next 20, 25, 30, whatever, how many minutes we have here. All right. So I know you, Dr. Fowler. How about you introduce yourselves to the crowd?
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. T. Maurice Fowler, CEO of Fowler Media Group, and I am an award-winning author and poet, and I've been writing since 1995. Um, I enjoy the space of marketing, uh, and diversity is very interesting. You know, it's not what everybody thinks, but we'll get into all of that in a moment.
Anything else? That's it?
That's it.
All right.
As far as introducing me, yes, but we'll get into the topic.
All right. So you kind of know who I am by my name, but I'm going to tell you where I'm from. I built my first computer from junkyard scraps when I was about 9 years old. I grew up in a family where my history is sharecroppers, juke joint owners. My my grandmother had a fourth grade education. I was the first one in my family to graduate from high school, graduate from college, get an advanced degree, and then get a doctorate degree first. So coming from first, having an 8-year-old want to go to the library to learn how to build a computer kind of didn't sit well in my household. But they told me it wasn't for girls like me. Loaded, but wasn't for girls like me. But I proved them wrong because I ended up leading the engineering teams that built the digital athlete platform by AWS for the NFL. This is my third startup. I was a former partner at PwC, and I've always been around AI, especially building the digital platform for the NFL. And so when I asked ChatGPT to do what hundreds of thousands of people have done, turn me into this action figure, photorealistic, it gave me Jensen Wang's face. Jensen Wang. So I think back to that. I could have, had the keyboard confidence and posted about it and then, kept on and then went on my merry way. But I decided to do something about it. And so where do I get this from? I get it from my great grandma who ran a juke joint. And if you haven't seen Sinners, I'm not plugging them. It kind of gives you the whole juke joint experience. And she was tough and mean. But that's how I got the idea to see my legacy is pattern recognition. And so I can identify patterns in AI. And so I see things that AI miss, but also other people miss because where I came from.
Mm.
My name is Yvette Schmitter, and yes, I am CEO and co-founder of Fusion Collective, and I've protected to date over 2 million people from algorithmic harm and bias. I've saved clients millions in lawsuits, prevented and risk mitigation costs. And I advise governments on both sides of the Atlantic. Yes, the ones down in DC. And we've built something in my company to kind of help everybody. And so my company, we do make money, but I'm not in it to get rich. I'm in it to make sure that the end users for this AI apocalypse is for everybody, not those who can afford it, not those in the data set, everybody. So I'm here because I don't ask for permission, and you can blame it on my great grandma, to be in spaces. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about how diversity, our lived experiences, how AI is going to come in. That's my coffee shop spot. It'll be the AI piece comes into it. And Dr. Fowler's going to tell his experience about how he started in the US in the 90s when DEI wasn't a buzzword now on the ban list, how it works, and then how it's turned into what it is today. So let's start talking about what happens when we take control of the conversation and we pivot. So, Dr. Fowler, um, before we go there, there's not a packed room, but I like it because it's nice and cozy. So, how many people in this room have heard or been in a meeting where someone said, we need to reach diverse audiences? Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then like 30 minutes later, you saw the campaign that came out and you were just like, what? Okay. Yeah, we've all been there, right? We've all been there. So diverse audiences, and I did the math and because I love receipts. So diverse audience in the US alone control over $5 trillion in spending power. Count the zeros. 5 trillion. So this isn't a nice to have. And if you want to be all capitalistic, you're leaving money on the table if you don't market and include in your data, in your marketing campaigns, in your strategy, a $5 trillion market here in the United States. And this is your market. And this market can smell performative stuff miles away. You will never be invited to the bar book queue. Okay? We can see it, smell it. So you've been in these meetings, you want to include the diverse audiences and the diverse markets, and you come up with something that's like, eh. So Dr. Fowler's been in marketing and DEI from the very beginning before DEI became a term. So Dr. Fowler, he built the diversity strategy for Hyundai. Is that correct? Hyundai?
Alcoa Fujikura Limited for Ford, Mazda, Subaru, Packard Trucks,
Okay, cars. Okay.
automotive, yes.
In the 1990s, right? Before it became an intern. Okay. Before the whole people and belonging mantra came out in corporate America. He was delivering the diversity in the 90s. And so that wasn't a trend.
No.
So, like, tell us about being inclusive really started before it became the trendy, then it became the banned word.
Thank you. Thank you very much. One of the things that's very interesting is that diversity actually started in a very unknown space. It started in psychology with Sigmund Freud. Okay. As all of you know, Sigmund Freud is the father of psychotherapy and is the standard that psychologists operate under today. And it was his nephew, Edward Bernays, who came along and took his uncle's writings on the mind and turned it into information that could be used to cause people to buy. So the first campaign that he did was, interestingly, when we talk about diversity, the number one category or demographic is women. Okay, is women. And what is interesting to me, why I said in the beginning when I was introducing myself that diversity is not what you think. Women, if I'm not mistaken, are not the least of the human beings on planet Earth.
No, we are
Okay,
49.978%
so
of the
how can
population.
they be, know, the minority? But okay, it is what it is. So Edward Bernays came up with a campaign to get women to smoke cigarettes in the 1920s. And that began the marketing to diverse communities in the 1920s with cigarettes. So Edward Bernays showed corporate America, okay, you don't sell a product. People are not interested in a car. They're not interested in a suit. They're not interested in shoes or a nice iPad. They're interested in a feeling, okay? They're interested in an image. They're interested in feeling included, inclusion, right? So when women could smoke, I mean, did that lift them out of the social condition that they were in? No. But smoking a cigarette was something that they could choose. And with each puff, when Virginia Slims came along with the slogan, "You've come a long way, baby." But what? From smoking, not smoking to smoking. But again, we're talking about a feeling. We're talking about an emotion. And this is what people buy. So when we deal with diversity, one of the things that we have to understand is that depending on the market, you're not really dealing with anything diverse. First and foremost, human beings are human beings. And in my world, people are people. There's only one race, and that's the human race. So when you take out all of these walls, everybody's got to eat, everybody's got to drink, everybody wants to get around some kind of way. Everyone wants to do some similar things. So you target understanding the demographic, okay, and you target those people. Now, right now, Pepsi, as a good example, is running advertising to this point to the market of the Latinos. Okay, Latinos is my market. So I'm listening to the guys talking about todo está mejor con un Pepsi, right? So one thing I realized, they have different Latinos, and what they're showing in their commercial, that even in Latinos you have diversity, because you orale ahí va, that's Mexico, and then you have a person speaking Spanish that sounds more American. So they're connecting the market inclusively by using American Latinos, Latin American Latinos outside of the United States. Y todo está mejor con Pepsi. Everything is better with Pepsi. And they're talking about the food, and their different tortilla, and this one has this style and that one has that style. So and it's a very good commercial. And I applaud Pepsi for doing it. Now, recently I noticed Coca-Cola has come along, and they're doing something to kind of pull back. But if anybody's been in Latin America, and from the littlest, smallest rinky-dink town, you're going to see a Coca-Cola sign and 50 people drinking Coca-Cola soda. So, Pepsi has a lot of work to do, but it's a really great start. So when we move now into the 90s and 80s, when I got into the game, as a young kid, and this is a tech session, and I will state for the record that my start is in tech. I went to computer programming school when I was 18, and then the United States Air Force after that. And my tech skills are, I was wicked with MS-DOS skills. Anybody remember MS-DOS back in 1980s, and when the IBM PC XT showed up on the set? Well, I was that 18-year-old kid that could make that machine sing. So I would get these older guys in their 30s say, "Kid, you know what to do with this thing?" And I would just smile and make it dance. So what happened was diversity became an issue. There was some high visible societal situations that occurred. And then I was given the task of implementing diversity in the entire North American organization, which is United States, Canada, and Mexico. So as a young kid, then in my 20s, I would get people in rooms like settings like this, and I can tell you, um, 8 hours of talking about play nice in the sandbox is a hard sell. And in my later studies, it's nothing to do with people really being anti anybody. It is 100% about the paradigms that have formed in people's minds over the decades of their lives that they have built from childhood of their parents and like Dr. Yvette said, their grandparents, okay, that have told them, and these have become systems because your paradigm actually says to itself, if you change, you will die. And this is why I have been out of corporate America, out of that setting back in 1991. It's now 2026, and we're still having the same conversation. It's not that people don't want to come forward, don't want to be nice. We've been dealing with the wrong element in corporate America. It's paradigms. And I've just wrote a book called Paradigm Shift. I'm not marketing the book. I'm just giving an example. Until you shift your paradigms, this is going to continue as far as people not wanting to play nice in the sandbox. So this is the problem when we get to marketing, we're not looking at human beings. We're looking at colors, we're looking at religions, we're looking at genders. And the last time I checked, colors don't spend money, religions don't spend money, genders, it's people. If you take the focus and put it on people and connect with the people authentically with who they want to spend money. There's someone right now with $1 billion that's looking for someone who knows what to do with $1 billion. And there's someone with $1,000 that's looking to buy something with that $1,000. Okay, so if we stop with well, we have to have a hierarchy. There is no hierarchy. Dr. Yvette just said $5 trillion. I want a piece of that. How about you? I want a piece of that 5 trillion. And see, the problem is, you know, uh, I'm Fowler Media Group, which is my company. In media, you wouldn't even think the other communities have a billion. But the truth is, when 2008 came and the government had to bail out the banks and Wall Street, one segment of the population that at that time was spending 1.1 trillion could have done it and had hundreds of billions left over. And the US government could have relaxed. So the question is, how do we get rid of the games, get a playing field that is about people, and start making this money? Because that's what it's about. Dr. Yvette.
Thank you for the title upgrade. I played one on TV, but I am not a doctor.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Fowler, on that. But I just on the last session, the last speaker talked about AI and he used the healthcare example, showing how an algorithm just did all the wrong things, talking about humans in the loop. He talked, all the things that we've heard about, and he showed you an example of that in action. But when you think about marketing today, it's not one marketer. Marketing departments, don't get me wrong, probably took a hit, right? And so now you got this one person, maybe an analyst or was an analyst or played one on TV, whatever that is, now leading the marketing efforts of your organization, and you probably want them to use AI, right? Because they can do stuff faster, increase their productivity, right? So you don't need a team. So now you got Susie, Becky, Jimmy, John, whatever, from their perspective, building a marketing campaign. But if they've never had to put water in their cereal because there was no milk in the house, if they don't understand the reference of government cheese, how can they hit a market who's now a CEO of her third startup? And I got money to spend. Check the shoes. Right? So if that one person isn't looking at the world in a view that includes everyone that doesn't look like them, it comes across as performative, right? We all know on Amazon.com, like I'm not like this out there. Google it. There's all these fake marketed drugs, right? You have the original from an organization. They redo the label. They do something a little bit different, and everything inside of it is just placebo. And you're tricking people. This is what marketing has turned into today. So as companies, my question back to Dr. Fowler is just like, all right, so you've been in from, you're like the OG, right? So you're the OG of marketing. You've been there, when it wasn't a buzzword, and inclusivity and diversity and DEI, right? Before it became politicized. So fast forward from then to now, when you see a marketing campaign, you mentioned PepsiCo, very great example. But when you see a marketing campaign, like, what's the tell that they missed somebody, or someone wasn't in that meeting, someone was included in that conversation? What's your tell? Like any example that you have?
It's glaring. A problem with television today, whether you watch cable, whether you watch live television, you see it in the commercials. Okay, I have very sensitive hearing, so I speak languages, and because of that, I hear words actually the way they sound, and I want you all to listen. Me and Yvette, me and Yvette. Have you been hearing "and" in commercials? I know you have, because now all of a sudden, and that's not natural for all communities, you see. And I watch television, and I'm looking at them. They're spending revenues for marketing, advertising. They're using, for lack of a better word, different looking people. Okay, a person is a person, and I'm just going to pause a second. My question is, if the person is a person of color, why does it reflect the color movie? Why does it reflect the color book? When other communities write, it's just a movie, it's just a book. Think about that. Oh, this is a black book. I didn't know blacks had races. Wow, colors, what? This is a black movie. Oh, I didn't know. I thought it was just people. You have actors, you have actors. I'm the kind of guy that looks at BET and says, where's WET? Where's the other BET for the brown? Where's the YET? Okay. People from the Mediterranean or olive skin, where's the OET? It doesn't make sense. You see, I'm an analytical thinker. So when I look at that, going back to the way that they're using language in commercials, they want everyone to be the same. Everyone is not the same. When we can promote, market, go forward authentically, just let people be who they are. Because when their community sees them, that's when you get your buy-in. If I sit up here and okay, that might be the way that the people who in corporate want the commercial to come across. But the people you want to connect to are not going to receive that. And if I sit here and tell you, then imagine how many other millions see the same thing. So this is the silly stuff. We just have to be real. And is and. It's not and. It's just and. So anybody sees this, tell your marketing people, stop doing it because it's not authentic. Let people who say and. Let people who say and say and. And that's about one of the best examples I could give right now.
I will now be listening to commercials a little more attentively. I kind of try to scroll through them. Ugh. Okay. Anyway, so same question, but I'm going to answer it. I'm going to give you guys an example of what resonated with me. And so my husband watches Super Bowl, like he watches football. Is what he will. Babe, this is for you. We are a Packer household. We only watch Green Bay Packers, and we only support Green Bay Packers. Okay. But we do watch the Super Bowl. So he watches it for the love of the game. I watch it for the freaking commercials, right? Not so much for the halftime show. Oh, Kendrick Lamar. Anyway, not so much for the halftime show, but really, really for the commercials. Like I stay up really for the commercials, and I can tell you the commercial that was authentic, original, didn't feel icky, right? Dunkin' Donuts. Dunkin' Donuts. Ben Affleck, Matt, like it was hilarious. Hilarious. No one stoked anything, right? Them just being them. Boys from South Boston talking like get some like Jenny on the block, give me something, right? This awesome, amazing, authentic. Touched on their real stuff. Unfortunately, they're not together anymore. But Ben came back, did another Dunkin' Donuts commercial, and it was still great. But those are great examples. When you see the flip side of that, some of the Old Navy commercials where the people are dancing, right? The new stuff they're doing on TikTok. Like it. Okay, like just think about those things when you're got your one person and ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or whoever to build your marketing campaign. Is that representing the market you want to attract, and who are you excluding? Those are just like some of the questions that literally I've watched commercials like who approved that? Like how is that on TV? Um, okay, so Dr. Fowler, you told us about your experience. You've kind of given us like insight from back in the day in the 80s and 90s. And I'm dating myself. Lotus Notes.
Lotus Notes, yes.
Okay, 80s, 90s. You kind of give us examples about what we're seeing today, why you kind of left corporate America. Okay. So here's a question that I want to ask you that you can kind of, if there's any CMOs, chief marketing officer, anyone who's in marketing, head of marketing, in marketing, what's the one thing that they should do Monday? I'm not going to say Friday because it's going to be a travel day. Monday, when they get back to the office, that would actually change how their marketing gets created.
Start being authentic with the target markets that you want to reach. And that is what makes the change. Communities see authenticity. And see, you have to understand we are no longer living in the world where you're lucky to have a job. We're living in a world where organizations understand that they're lucky to have the people with talent. Today's consumer, today's individual is a more aware, is a more consciously aware and growing community of people. Now being the boss doesn't mean anything. If people don't like, they quietly quit and then that's that. You don't. We have a new generation of people. They're looking for authenticity. For you to show up authentic, for you to have authenticity driving through every process in the organization. And don't misunderstand this. This is not a this color against that color against, no, it's none of that. It's recognizing that, in the United States, we are Americans, and that's it. If there was an invasion tomorrow, all of this foolishness would be ended. We're Americans, and this is our unity. So if you understand that you're marketing to people and you be authentic, I have a philosophy. Making money is a byproduct of great human relationships, and I'm going to end it there.
Hmm. I think authenticity is great, but not everybody can bring themselves to work, Dr. Fowler. I mean, like, come on, like it was big with like people in belonging. Bring yourself to work. Be authentic. Just all that. Yeah, that's great. Until somebody shows up in like, cool outs in a crop top, right? Like, like there's you being authentic is not safe for everybody. And I'm saying that as a Black woman. Okay. I'm not in corporate America for several reasons. Microaggressions are real, right? So being yourself, people want to touch your hair. To them, they're being authentic because This is new. I've never seen it. But boo boo, I'm not a dog and I'm not a panda. Right? So this like you I'm gonna push you on a little bit on this,
Okay.
Dr. Fowler, because telling people, hey, bring me authentic, yeah, because you're gonna have people being knocked out at the water cooler. You know what I mean? You really this let's be more prescriptive, right? I mean, okay, I'm gonna keep it real. Like it's a small group, it's just us friends and family. So look, being authentic, what does that mean? That means that the world does not revolve around you. That means that just because it didn't happen to you, that doesn't it didn't exist. Okay? So that means that you don't know it all. You have your perspective,
Absolutely.
right? And your perspective is your perspective.
Yes.
And a feeling is not a fact. So if you feel the need to touch my hair, the fact is you're gonna get knocked out. That's the fact, right?
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay, right? So let's keep it real in that sense. It's like I didn't come all this way to give y'all platitudes and stuff. Like, what can they do on Monday? Right? It's like really look at your marketing campaigns and your materials in a way that is not your rose-colored glasses. It's not your Sunday dinners. It's not where you go, what conversation with what higher power you have. How does this expand your brand, increase your bottom line, get more clicks, people on Instagram? What is that, right? And it's not that you know it all. And I'm telling you, Claude, Gemini, and ChatGPT ain't gonna help you. Why? Because if you don't know what to ask it, it's gonna give you back what you think you put in, right? So you're just like, God, give me an authentic marketing campaign. For who? For what? From what perspective? Right? So that would be my takeaway. Look, I'm not in marketing, but I know if an ad came out like that Dunkin' Donuts one, very original. I didn't feel anybody was playing, trying to be something that they're not. I know for a fact that Matt and Ben are from South Side of Boston because I went to Tufts University. They do talk like that, right? How would y'all talk to college? Like it is real, right? So none of that seemed performative to me or fake. So use that Dunkin' Donuts commercial as an example. That was Matt, that was Ben. Best friends when Matt moved into the neighborhood when they were like 8. Friends since then. Use your marketing campaigns from that perspective. Nothing on there was fake.
Now let me interject here.
Okay.
Now being authentic is the right model, and Yvette is absolutely correct. Now in that scenario, okay, you're talking about issues with boundaries. Okay, this has to deal with boundaries, the way people approach you, the way people treat you. And see, the thing is, we teach people how to treat us. Okay, people don't just walk up to you and start touching your hair.
Oh, yes, they do, Dr.
Okay,
Fowler. Like
all right,
we
okay,
gonna healthily disagree.
okay,
Yes,
okay,
yes, they
and
do. Yes, they do. Yes,
okay,
they do.
okay.
Okay, let me tell you.
Well,
Yes, they
well,
do.
let me finish. Now, having said that, you do have some people that need to be taught. But just like she said, if a person does that, she's going to knock them out.
Okay.
Well, that is teaching. This is not how you treat me.
And that's probably I'm not in corporate
And
America because you can't
and
punch your
that
colleagues, right?
and that has to do with boundaries. Okay, establishing boundaries. And the first off, when you're dealing in corporate America, you expect people to be professional. Just going and grabbing people, touching on, that's not professional. I'll give you an example of what happened to me. I was in Mexico. I invited a company, potential supplier. All right. So a gentleman of another community, we were out networking, walked up to me with this big smile, pointed at me with his finger and said, "And how did you get this job?" Okay. I looked at him and I smiled. I locked in eyes with him. I'm an Air Force veteran. I don't get intimidated. I looked at him. I said, "See that man over there?" And yeah. I said, "You see that lady right there?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "I'll tell you what." I said, "You go over to them and ask them the same question." I said, "If they give you an answer, I'll give you an answer." You see, you have to be comfortable in your own skin first and foremost. You have to teach people how to treat you. Don't cry. You see, my thought leadership is different. A lot of people talk about bullies, but bullies are teachers. Bullies start in childhood because childhood is where a lot of lessons have to be learned. And I know there may be people who disagree, and I respectfully accept that. But when one child starts bullying another child, the universe wants that child who's being bullied to awaken to his or her strength that they're at that moment not aware of. Because bullies stop the moment you step up and say enough and push back. But as long as you keep getting pushed, that's the universe saying, come on, there's something in you, stand up. There's something in you, stand up. And I know a lot of people won't agree with that. But that's why the lesson is done in childhood, because bullied kids grow up to be bullied adults. Okay? They get in marriages that are bullied. And I don't want to touch on, forgive me, this may be a little bit uncomfortable. But it's a cycle that runs through life until a person finds the strength in them and stands up and says, I'm not going to be treated that way. Okay. And that's what has to happen. Now, when you come into circles and you get these people who are not professional, well, those are different cases that you have to deal with. And I'm very glad that Yvette and the young woman there spoke up and said, oh, yes. Okay. I have had people do things, but I've always been very diplomatic and strategic about how I operated. There was a man of my community who was introducing another man of my community. We were in the office and he walked up behind me. Now he was in the military, and at that time, I was already out, but he was still in. He walks up behind me, puts his finger, says, stick up in my back. And I'm thinking to myself, what are you doing? I'm thinking to myself. So I said, okay, you want to play games. You obviously don't understand. I'm a martial artist. So I spinned around and I just did this. I didn't touch him, but I just did this. Nobody saw it, but I taught him a lesson. I said, don't ever forget that I'm a military veteran, brother. So if you're going to rob me, just remember that. So what I was really doing, and you may say, wow, this guy is aggressive. No, I was very easy with it. But my message to him was, don't come into my office because I'm from New York. You assume that I'm some, former street thug. No. And I'm teaching the new guy. You see what I just did? Don't come to me like that. I'm a professional and I'm only going to be treated like a professional. And if you don't, I'm going to push back. So boundaries, teach people how you want to be treated, and respect other people. Benito Juarez, the former president of Mexico, many years ago, said something. El respeto al derecho ajeno es la paz. The respect for the rights of others is the peace. That's the baseline. When you show up at work, that's the baseline. Respect the people on the team. And even though, the team was very different when I started out, anything, two ladies in the coffee shop is a team today. Respect the people you're interacting with.
I got thoughts, but you know what? Look, everyone's perspective is their perspective. I'm gonna give Dr. Fowler that. You know, um, at the end of the day, uh, I am the CEO of my own company. I'm a co-founder. This is my third. I was an executive at AWS, and I don't need to walk in the room with a badge or a name tag, but I'm always asked to get coffee or take notes.
Mm.
So, and that happens today. So most people, they see Yvette Schmitter on an email, they get surprised when they see me on the screen, right? They don't expect this on the other side. It's the reason why I didn't change my name from my first husband, right? Because I like that, right? It's a tell for me. So respect, hear it, but what can these people do on Monday, right? Like, actually, what can they do on Monday? Let's just bring it back to that. Any questions out there? Because I know we've been chewing fat for a bit. My only thing I would want to say is, like, look, I gave the Dunkin' Donuts example. because I thought it was very authentic.
Hey, it's a great example.
Um,
Great
but
example.
that would be my 2 cents is for someone who doesn't drink Dunkin' Donuts,
I don't either.
right? Doesn't drink Dunkin' Donuts coffee. I really like their commercial. And if I was a Dunkin' Donuts drinker, that would make me double down and buy more Dunkin' Donuts coffee. So any questions from the room on any ideas that you might think that a person can do starting Monday to make their marketing more inclusive? I know that's a banned word, but I'm going to say it, more inclusive. Look, it's a $5 trillion market. We got money to spend. I'm just going to say it's bad business if you don't want any of that, right? Because who don't want parts of 5 trillion? I'm like, give me 1%. I'm good. More shoes, right? So like, think about it that way, right? You know, it doesn't got anything about that is like money. We live in a capitalist society. If you read Sam Altman's Visage on the policy on AI, he talks about it. It's like it's bad, but it's good. Okay, money, money, money. $5 trillion. How do you want your piece of that? In a way that they stay a customer, a client, they keep coming back. How do you get that your piece of that $5 trillion market? Who ain't always on TikTok or Instagram, who may not be the person you think that you see riding a bus or walking down the street, right? All those things from your worldview, from your perspective, doesn't equate to what that whole entire market looks like. So my challenge to you all, if there's no question, is to think that way. The world is my world for how I live in it. But if I want to sell my shit and if I want that piece of that $5 trillion market, it ain't about me, right? It ain't about who I think this is. It ain't about what I see on TV, in the movies, or whatever, or some talking head on some YouTube channel, right? Like, what is that market? And how can I get a piece of it so they stay my clients and customers? So you mentioned Pepsi. So when I tell you that PepsiCo is making a stance that is more on what's right and what's wrong. So they pulled out of the conference, the concert that was sponsoring Ye, Kanye West in the UK, right? Principal moral reasons. Pulled their sponsorship. So if you wanna not be performative, like put your money where your mouth is. They they probably didn't get a refund, right? But then you're gonna have to take our stuff down. They might got a little bit of money back. But just think about it. They went that far and said, we're not gonna support this. Bye. And they weren't the only ones. See, that's not being performative, right? It's just about good and what's right and what's wrong. So my little ditty for you all, because I know we should probably get off this stage, is this: is yes, diversity has been weaponized. DEI has been weaponized. It's literally on the banned list of the other 476 words that you cannot use about equity and inclusivity, diversity, marginalized, confused, all bad words cannot use. It's been politicized, right? So, but that $5 trillion of that market, that ain't politicized. It is the cold, hard, green cash. So my wish for you all is to think about, how can I get a piece of that? How can I get a piece of that $5 trillion market here in the US? How can I get a piece of that? That's what we'll leave you with.
I agree.
Have a good day. We're getting the crown
Thank
off.
you.
See you. You should walk over here and be like, get off, get off.
Right. What an energizing discussion. Thank you to our panelists for sharing such actionable insights on connecting meaningful with diverse audiences. Building on that, now we turn to our next session, turning physical AI into serviceable, scalable systems. Always GBPS 60 GHZ link UC60 is a topic that highlights the power of turning complex technologies into practical solutions ready for real world deployment. Understanding how advanced systems can deliver consistent, high speed performances is critical for organizations looking to innovate and expand efficiently. In this section, our speaker will walk us through the design and implementation of sophisticated platforms that go beyond theory, showing us how to use these systems become functional, reliable, and scalable. Please join me in welcoming Young Dong Kim, CEO of Aniquan, hopefully I'm saying that correctly, to the stage to share his expertise and experiences. Let's give him a warm round of applause. Let's welcome him up to the stage.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's not morning now, and a little bit delayed, and it's almost noon, so good noon would be appropriate, right? So I'm from Korea, and our company is a unicorn, and we developed communication semiconductor chip with the 60 gigahertz, and this could be not funnier than previous content, but it this kind of content will be something that you might never heard of before, or you might never thought of before. So and please kindly allow me, because I'm pure Korean and definitely South, not North, South Korean, and my English is not so good. So please, I hope your generosity to understand. So I'm gonna talk about how we can scale physical AI and also how to make it serviceable. So when it comes to physical AI, we normally have a two physical AI, how can I say, hardwares. First one is a humanoid or electronic vehicle, self-driving cars, and also these days, AI space data center is arising these days. So yeah, let me go directly. So we only have 15 minutes, but let me go quickly before it's just before lunch. So main subject is two things. First one is a why AI data center in space. Why does it need it in AI in the space? First one is a space energy. Space offers abundant solar energy without day-night interruption or weather loss. So Testarian data center on Earth requires huge new power plant or grid energy service, and there are a bunch of NIMBY not in my area. So energy in space is abundant and not limited. So in terms of energy, AI data center in space is kind of in terms of capex or opex, it's more efficient and effective. And it also bypass Earth's growing bottleneck, like as I mentioned before, land grant capacity or permits or local opposition like a NIMBY. And in terms of scale, AI demand grow exponentially. Space opens a path to infrastructure at a much large physical scale. So it turns AI infrastructure from a local real estate problem into a global orbital platform. And also, uh, next subject is much funnier. And why self-driving car does AI influence? Uh, when you park or charging your car, the car itself is idle. And these days, car, self-driving car or self-driving electronic vehicle, it already contains very supercomputer, like a 2000 tops tera operation per second, or much better computer than you have. It's like almost NVIDIA Blackwell or yeah, those kind of server level. Then what if we can rent or lend our car or compute power to grid distributed data center? Then we can make money. For example, when we think about 2000 tops, which is already inside of the car, when we borrow those kind of computing power from Google Cloud or Amazon Web Service, we have to pay around um, 5 to almost 10 US dollar per hour. Then we already have those kind of computing power in our car, then it when we parked or charging, when we can communicate together, then when we rent our computing power to our grid data center or virtual data center, then efficiency would be maybe 50% or less than that. But when we think about two or couple of dollars that we can make when we park or charging, then we multiply by 12 hour and 30 days and 12 month, then those money will be around 10K USD per year. So this is not a small money. So this could be this money could be how can I say, appear because car is already idle when we park or charging. We can use those idle time, and also AI computing demand is on the peak. And also we like Elon or Jensen Huang, they always mention that AI computing power should go thousand times higher or order of magnitude higher. That means the car should be worked as a computer for the grid computing. Then we can make money, car owners. So instead of sitting idle while charging or parked, the vehicle can generate computing time. In other words, a car owner can make money. And also it can expand AI infrastructure without building the same amount of new data center capacity. And also this kind of when parked or charging, it can be connected with the server or backbone. The one of the problem of the self-driving is the edge case training or model update. So same connection can upload edge case driving data or download updated models. So it can be more safe self-driving and also cheaper to implement safer self-driving. So this is our chipset. We call UC60 because we leverage 60 gigahertz, very high frequency. So I'm not sure if you can see this. Yeah, this black one, this is our chipset, very small. So smaller than normal connectors, physical connectors. Uh, so far, when we link some data source to data sync, we have to connect cable or connector physically. It could be copper or it could be fiber optic. But now we make it we make it chipset wireless by 60 gigahertz. So we can solve the problem by the physical contacting wear and tear problem or frequently uh, plugging out, there could be a mechanical problem, and we can dealing with that because we don't need the physical contact. Uh, I'm a CEO and co-founder of the Unicorn, which is located in Korea and Tokyo and Shenzhen and also San Diego. And we raised fund around 100 million USD so far for 4 years and supported by Korean government. And actually, I'm honored and privileged to be here, Tech 2.0 conferences here. And uh, yeah, I want to share more information for you. So mainly we design and develop UC60, those kind of chipset and manufacture from TSMC. And we also give our engineering support to our customers, such as NASA or car OEMs, to implement those ideas to be realized. And these are our mass production adoption for smartphone or home application or robot arm tool change or joint. There are also many cables or connector, but when we move, it wear and tear. So we replaced by our chipset. So yeah, main two subject. So for AI space data center, especially now we need a docking. So um, previously, we didn't require those kind of high-speed data docking system because when we dock, like we have a communication cable inside of the satellite or inside of the space system. But when it comes to AI data center, there should be a backbone like that with the solar panel and radiator panel, and we should connect those kind of cabinet. Why that cabin, or it is also called cabinet, it should be docked to be connected with other cabinet. So there's a backbone inside, looks like a pillar, and there we need a not gigabit per second, not terabit per second, but petabit per second we need. And when we think about petabit per second, fiber optic cable inside of the data center, it supports around giga level or 0.8 level terabit per second, and we need 1,000 or 10K of them. But when we think about docking situation, the docking area is not enough. So we come up with the yeah, U.S. Space Agency. We come up with one idea. What if we not only this area but also like a interdigitate, if finger length is unlimited, then we will have an unlimited area of the connectivity. So we can have a theoretically unlimited speed we can make. So this kind of concept is on the proof of concept stage. So objective is enable ultra high bandwidth, low latency, serviceable data transfer between docked AI data center cabin and the backbone docking port. But current problem, I'm sorry, let me read through. So current problem is a fiber dense docking or copper dense docking, and undocking is complex and fragile or heavy and difficult to scale and service. So our solution is always gigabit per second, 60 gigahertz based contactless link, those kind of semiconductor chips. So to create modular, scalable, and serviceable docking connectivity without physical forcing in. Mm. Yeah, last but not least, so for self-driving car, we need high-speed data communication in order to rent our computing power to virtual data center or grid computing data center. Low latency, like a gigabit Ethernet, and also high bandwidth is required to make efficiency uh, best. So the objective, this kind of link, is turn charging time into connected compute time by enabling deterministic high-speed data transfer for distributed AI compute, edge case data upload, and also model update. But current problem we have is when it comes to cellular or conventional wireless link are costly. Uh, how can I say? There's some kind of a KPI, dollar per bit